Just on what Donald Trump is trying to do here, I mean, there are some who feel that we're maybe slightly overreacting, that we've seen this playbook before, that this is a US president who's used tariffs to kind of win negotiations, if you like. He goes in hard with his Maximus kind of what desire, and he kind of works back from there. Is there a sense that maybe that's what he's doing here?
It might be. Absolutely, it might be. I think what it tells you is that you must, even though you've got to be very aware of the possibility, and there is a possibility that he really means it, and he's going to persist with it, but it means that in the meantime, while you've got a couple of weeks before this deadline expires, you've got to move heaven and earth, because the stakes are so high, to try and negotiate a practical solution, an off-ramp for him, and something that continues a process of dialogue and just lowers the heat. Now, look, you can say, that's naive, that won't work. Well, okay, but you've got to try. And that doesn't mean to say that you say that that's where you will end up if everything fails, but that's what you have to do in the meantime. So, yeah, negotiate, but not in a kind of, you know, this is a big macho exercise. Use the mechanisms of quiet conversation and discussion, use the nature of your relationship, and try and move this into an area where you de-escalate the issue. I think it would be a mistake, while you've still got at least a couple of weeks, to go all macho and talk about retaliation and all the rest of it, because all you're going to do is drive them further into a corner, and the risk of precipitating something that you must, until you've tried every route, try to obtain an outcome that is practical. But you don't do it with your eyes closed. You don't do it because you don't believe this is serious. You believe it is serious, and precisely because of that, you try hard to get it done now.
But then is the counterpoint to this, and maybe this is the view in the Elysee Palace with President Macron, who, in terms of European leaders, seem at least the most outspoken, is that, I mean, I thought it was really interesting. Scott Besson said that Europe doesn't project power, the United States does. And there is clearly a view, I think, within France that actually, you know what, we need to start standing up for ourselves here. We need to look at just sort of the things that the European Union, this bazooka they talk about, the European Union could do when it comes to trade. I mean, it is the wealthiest trading bloc in the world still.
Yeah, of course. And, you know, I wouldn't rule out that at a certain point, if you have exhausted all other channels and it is a complete dead loss, then, you know, maybe you do resort to something like that, because you've got to carry your domestic political constituencies with you. I mean, it may actually be economically disadvantageous to you, but I get it. The politics sometimes dictate it. But I wouldn't run to it right now. And apart from anything else, let's not get too technical about this because of the grand politics. But, you know, the use of this so-called bazooka is not straightforward. They've never used it. They've got to get consensus among themselves. It will take them months to do it. That's not to disparage it if, at the right time, it's all you've got left, and you have to be, as a sovereign state, able to look like you're able to stand up for yourself. But it's not going to solve this problem in the next few weeks.
And just very finally, what about us here in Britain? Obviously, we're not part of the, you know, the customs union, the EU anymore. Is that an advantage to us, or is it a disadvantage from where you can see, in terms of if we did have to get into retaliatory kind of zones?
You know, I'm a tradie, okay?
Yeah.
I'm not a deep skate guy. But let me say something where I think is really important. What would happen with the tariffs is really unfortunate. It's bad, it's terrible. But there are bigger stakes in this than the tariffs. The national security consequences for the NATO alliance are what's at issue. And it would be a mistake to think that this is a self-contained bubble on trade. It isn't. I mean, the reason why the EU and the United Kingdom reached a deal, which was actually the best deal that we could get, and it's not bad compared to everybody else, but nobody would have chosen to do that. The reason are because we have a security alliance with the United States, and we don't have a substitute for that. So, you know, what's at stake here is not whether you retaliate economically, it's only that question. It's a question of how you manage that alliance relationship with the United States. There are much bigger risks to that alliance than anything that would happen with a tariff. We could survive a tariff war, but it's very difficult to imagine that we could survive a fracture in the NATO alliance.
OK, Sir Crawford, really appreciate your time and your insight tonight. Thank you very much indeed, Sir Crawford Falconer. Thank you.